So we are now going to start off with this question, which is an AFM practice examination 1 question number 3. The name of the question is about Selorne company. Let's just start discussing about it. It says the following exhibits. It says the following exhibits available on the left hand side of the screen. So this is the left hand side of the screen. Provide relevant information to the question. So there is this Selorne company, there is this Shareholders company and acquisition target. There are terms of bid for Shareholders company. There are financing the bid for Shareholders company, and the information should be used to answer the requirements within your response options. So if I talk about this specific requirements to the question, let's just see what are the requirements to this question. It says estimate the equity value of the combined company. Estimate the equity value of the combined company and the expected additional value arising from the combination of Selorne and Shareholders company. So what is actually happening is that it says estimate the equity value of the combined company and the expected additional value which is arising from the combination of Selorne and Shareholders company. Number 2, estimate the share of the gain from the combination created for Chris Shareholders and the share of the gain created for Selorne company's shareholder, and comment on your results. So there are multiple things that you got to do in this question. One of them is estimate equity value of combined company. Okay. And expected additional value arising from combination of Selorne and Shareholders. The next situation is estimate the share of the gain from the combination created for Chris Shareholders and the share of gain created for Selorne. Okay. Estimate how reliable the estimates of synergies for the combined company are likely to be, and discuss factors which may prevent the synergies to be achieved. And lastly, discuss the factors which Selorne's board will consider when determining which source or sources of finance to choose, a possible cash bid for the share capital of Shareholders company, etc. So that is something that you got to talk about. Now, let's talk about the Selorne company. Let's just try to see what are the relevant information pertaining to Selorne company. It says Selorne is one of the biggest removal companies in Poland, offering home and business removals. It has a number of long-term contracts with large businesses, although it has not won any major contract in the last 2 years. So in the last 2 years, it has not won any major contract in the last 2 years. Now what does it say? It says Selorne is listed on the Poland's stock exchange for smaller companies. Selorne is financed by a mixture of equity and short and long-term debt, but its gearing level is below the average for its sector. So if your gearing level is below the average for your sector, that means you can borrow more. Now what next is there? It says Selorne company has 4 executive directors, each of whom owns 20% of the company's share capital, with 20% owned by external shareholders. Selorne had paid a constant dividend since it has been listed, and its share price has risen slightly over the last 3 years. Selorne is based in a number of large cities and towns in Poland and owns the majority of the sites where it is located. So what does Selorne do? It actually owns the majority of the sites. Many of its employees have worked for the company for a long time. Drivers of the lorries used by the Selorne are required to have a special heavy vehicle license. Salary levels at Selorne are relatively high compared to other companies in the sector. So there is also something that exists, which is the salary levels are high in Selorne as compared to the other sector. Now let's just try to move a bit forward. Let's talk about Shareholders company. What is happening with respect to Shareholders company? It says Selorne is currently considering making a bid for Shareholders company, an unlisted company specializing in distribution and delivery services. Shareholders is owned by 100% by its founder. So Selorne is considering making a bid for Chevron, an unlisted company is specializing in distribution and delivery services. So what is this Chevron company doing? Is specializing in distribution and delivery services. What was your business? You are one of the biggest removal companies offering home and business removals. It says Chevron is owned 100% by its founder. So if the Chevron is 100% owned by its founder, that means it's an owner-managed business. And when it comes to the owner-managed business, generally speaking, the owner-managed businesses have got a different way of operating as compared to a business which is being managed by corporates, managed by organizations, multiple organizations. That's what it is. Now it says, Chevron has built up a portfolio of small contracts over time. What it has done is, has built up a portfolio of small contracts over time. It has made unsuccessful bids for 2 larger contracts over the last 12 months. The bids being rejected primarily because Chevron was not felt to be big enough to guarantee the level of service required. So they're probably losing out because of the size. They're not losing out because of the quantity. They're losing out because of the size. Now it says Chevron is based in many of the same cities and towns where Selorne is located. So it's based in many of the same cities and towns where Selorne is located. Although Chevron's premises are all rented. Now you see, Selorne company had all the premises which were owned, and this company has got all rented premises. The drivers of Chevron's do not require a heavy license, so that means the drivers are also a bit different. Chevron has a few long-serving employees which who are mostly center managers. So that means what happens is that over there were employees who had a high salary, they were long-serving. Now what happens is that you have got employees who are long-serving and do not have got and they are not being paid very high salary. Now most of drivers and staff, however, stay at Chevron for only a short time. Salary levels are low, although Chevron pays high levels of overtime and high bonuses. If target profit levels are achieved, Chevron is highly geared, leading to recent media speculation about its viability. So there are basically issues with Chevron. It is not paying high. It has got problems with its employee retention. Then what happens is that the employees actually stay here for a short time. They don't stay here for a long time. So there are multiple issues, multiple problems that exist with this company. Now what next is there? Terms of bid. What are the terms of the bid? Let's try to understand. It says in the initial discussions about the acquisition, Chris Chevron indicated that he would prefer the consideration to be a share for share exchange. The terms being 1 Chevron company share for 5 Selorne company share. Okay, so that's what they want, a share for share exchange. Chevron has $2 million $1 shares in issue. What do they have? $2 million $1 shares in issue. And Selorne has 50 million 0.5 shares in issue. Okay. Each Selorne company share is currently trading at 6.5, which is a multiple of 8 of its free cash flow to equity. So that's a multiple of 8 to its free cash flow to equity. That's what it is. Now what next is there? The multiple of 8 can be assumed to remain unchanged if acquisition take place. So that's a free cash flow multiplied by 8 will give you the value of the business. Chevron company's free cash flow to equity is currently estimated at 7 million. With an annual expected growth rate of 3%, and it is expected to generate a return on equity of 15%. Now Chris Chevron expects that the total free cash flows to equity of the combined company will increase by 5 million due to synergy benefits. He believes that the Selorne company will be able to win more contracts because it is larger and because it will be diversifying the services which it offers. He also believes that significant operational synergies can be achieved. Pointing out that time Selorne company's drivers spend idle during winter months, when removal activity is traditionally slower. Chris Chevon believes he can achieve the synergies if he is given management responsibility for operational reorganization, etc., including dealing with the staff and so and so, so and so. Lastly, Chief Executive and Finance Director in favor of bidding Chevon. However, one of the other executive director has opposed the bid. He is skeptical about the level of synergies. He says that the synergies may or may not materialize, which can be achieved, and does not want Chris Chevon to be brought into the management of Selorne. He suggests if the bid is to go ahead, it should be a cash offer rather than a share for share exchange. He says Selorne's chief executive has responded that Chris Chevon is likely to ask for a high equivalent price if the purchase is for cash. Now what next is there? Try to understand. Financing the bid, that's the last thing. Where says there are different types. Selorne's finance director has pointed that Selorne will need additional funding if Chevon companies purchase for cash. He has suggested that there may be a number of possible sources of finance: a right issue, a fixed rate long-term bank loan, a 3-year unsecured mezzanine loan facility, convertible debt with conversion rights being accessible in 5 years' time. So all of this could be done. Now, what are the requirements of the question? Let's try to do them. It says estimate equity value of the combined company. That's one thing. So what is it that we need to do? We need to estimate the equity value of combined company. That's the one thing that you have to do. What next is there? And the expected additional value arising from the combination of Selorne and Chevon. Now, how exactly are we going to do this calculations? Let's try to see. The first thing that you need to do is that you need to talk about the requirement number A1. You need to talk about the requirement number A1. Equity value of Selorne company, equity value of Chevon company, sum of both company values, value of combined company. How are we gonna do it? Let's just try to see. Let's talk about Selorne company. We're not being told anything here. Chevon company. Now, Chevon has 2 million $1 shares in issue. Number of shares 2 million. And Selorne has 50 million 0.5 shares in issue. $50 million. Each Selorne share is currently trading at 6.5. Value of company is gonna be this multiply by this. So we have got what? We have established the value of the company. Now what next is there? Next situation is, which is a multiple of 8 of its free cash flow to equity. The value of Selorne is equivalent to free cash flows to equity multiply by 8. Hence the free cash flows to equity is going to be what? Is going to be this 325 divided by 8. 40.625 is the value of free cash flows to equity. So the free cash flows to equity is 40.625. Now, what next is there? The multiple of 8 can be assumed to remain unchanged if the acquisition takes place. Shareholders' free cash flow to equity is currently estimated at 7% with an expected annual growth rate of 3%, and it is expected to generate a return on equity of 15%. So value of Shareholders is going to be free cash flows to equity, which is 7 million. The present value of future free cash flows is equivalent to this multiplied by 1.03 divided by 15% minus 3%, which is actually going to be what? 60.833, 60.08 million. $60.08 million. Now, he says Chris Shareholders expects that the total free cash flows to equity of the combined company will increase by 5 million due to synergy benefits. Okay, what is the sum of the value of both the companies right now? $385 million is the sum of both the companies right now. Now, what is the value of the combined company? It's gonna be free cash flows to equity multiplied by 8. So the free cash flows to equity is going to be what? How do you calculate? You would say Selorne FCFE. You would say Shareholders FCFE. Then you would say synergy total FCFE, the multiple and the revised value. So Selorne company's free cash flows to equity is this. Shareholders company's free cash flow to equity is this. The synergy is gonna be 5. If I sum up all of them, it's gonna be 52.625. The multiple of 8 is to be used. The value is gonna be this into this. 421 is the revised value. So the additional value created will be what? Equals to this minus this. So I repeat, additional value created is going to be this minus this. So the first requirement of the question was estimate the equity value of the combined company and the expected additional value arising from the combination of Selorne and Shareholders. So we have established that value of the combined company is also established, and also the additional value created. So what have we done? We have calculated, we have performed the whole calculation here. We have performed the whole calculation here. Let me know in case if anyone has got any questions to ask, please. Yeah, let me know in case if anyone has got any questions to ask. Okay, I'm just gonna open 385. I got 385 million like this. The 325 is the value of Selorne company, and then the value of Shareholders company is this 60.08. The sum of both is going to be 385.08. Okay, for the 52.625, it's basically the sum of Selorne company's free cash flow to equity, Shareholders company's free cash flow to equity, and then the synergy. Okay, anyone else having any other question now? Yeah, anyone else having any other question? Okay, 60.08 is calculated like this. Free cash flows to equity into 1.03 divided by KE minus G. It's actually simple free cash flow to equity multiply 1 plus G divided by KE minus G. That is the formula that has been used. This formula has been used. Yeah, is that okay now? This formula has been used. Now let's move a bit forward and move on to the second requirement. It says estimate the share of the gain from the combination created for Chris Shareholders and the share of the gain created for Salon company shareholders, and comment on your results. Now they are combining both the companies. What were the terms of the bid? The terms being one, Shareholders company share for 5 Selorne company shares. Okay, now see, calculate the share of the gain for the combination created for this. Now let's just try to see. Part A2, you would say what? You would say the value, the number of shares of Shareholders is 10 million. What is the terms of acquisition? Okay. So the number of shares of Shareholders is 2 million. Number of shares of Salon to be issued is gonna be what? 2 into 5 divided by 1 gives you 10 million. Existing shares of Selorne is 50 million. Total number of shares for combined company will be this plus this. So resultingly 60 million is the total shares for the combined company. Total number of shares for the combined company. Value per share will be 421 divided by 60. 7.01667. 7.01667. The requirement of the question is estimate the gain. Estimate the share of the gain from the combination created for Chris Shareholders. Estimate the share of the gain from the combination created for Chris Shareholders. So the number of shares received by Chris Shareholders is what? Okay, wait a bit. Value of shares received by Chris Shareholders is going to be what? Equals to, this is the value per combined company share, multiply by this much. The existing value of Shareholders company is equivalent to what? 60.08. Gain on Shareholders company shares is gonna be this minus this. And how has the examiner asked us? Estimate the share of the gain. So we have calculated the share of the gain. Estimate the share of the gain. Now what next is there? The share of gain for Selorne company shareholders. Existing value of Selorne is this. Value of combined company shares attributable to Selorne shareholders so it is actually going to be what? Equals to this 7.02 multiplied by 50 million. Hence the gain is gonna be what? Number of shares 50 million per share gain will be this divided by this. So per share gain is going to be like this. So if the examiner is asking you that what is the gain from the combination for Chris Chevon and the share of the gain created for Salon company shareholders, so this is what it is going to be. This is what it is going to be. Kindly have a look at it and let me know in case if anyone has got any questions. Yeah, please let me know in case if anyone has got any questions. $325 is the existing value of Selorne company. Okay, there is actually a question from Olojo on the 385 million, and the question is that why did you add the market value of Selorne company to the FCFF of Chevon company? Did I add it to the FCFF? No. I added to the present value of future cash flow, which is the value, which is actually the value of equity. Okay, how did I get the additional 10 million shares? You see here, for every 1 share you will issue 5 shares. For every 1 share you will issue 5 shares. So that's how you got the additional 10 million shares. Okay, is everyone okay now? Is everyone okay now? पानी की बॉटल दो. Okay, there is a question that how did you get 350.83? Where have I put 350.83? I just need to check. Okay. 7.02 is the value of the company. Multiply 50 million shares. Or you could have even done it like this, 6.5. And you could have used this value. And resultingly you would have got the answer. So you could have done it like this also. Any further question, please? Yeah, any other question? Any other question, please? Okay, I will now move on to the next part of the question, which is actually, okay, now we got to comment on our results also. Okay, so we got to comment on our results also. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna say, as per the workings, gain for Chris Chevon is $10.08 million on his 100% shareholding in Chevon company, whereas for Selorne company's shareholders, the gain that has been established is a total of 25.83 million, which is $0.52 per share held in combined company. In terms of percentages, gain for Chris Chevon is 10.08 divided by 60.08 is equivalent to 16.77%, whereas the gain for Selorne company shareholders is 8%. Is 8%. So the question's requirement was that you have to provide the commentary, and you have done that. The question's requirement was that you were supposed to provide the commentary, and you have done that. Now what's the third requirement? It says evaluate how reliable the estimate of the synergies for the combined company are likely to be, and discuss the factors which may prevent the forecast synergies from being achieved. Let's try to see. If we talk about it, it says evaluate how reliable the estimates of the synergies for the combined company are likely to be, and discuss the factors which may prevent the forecast synergies from being achieved. Now let's just try to see. I'm going to go through each one of the relevant paragraphs, and I would try to go through it. It's one of the biggest removal companies in Poland, offering home and business removals. So who are you? Selorne is a removal company. It has a number of long-term contracts with large businesses, although it has not won any major contract in the last 2 years. Recent success of Selorne is question mark. Selorne is listed on a stock market for smaller companies. Selorne is financed by a mixture of short and long-term debt, but its gearing level is below the average of its sector. Gearing of Selorne is below the gearing in its sector. It has 4 executive directors, each owning 20% of the share capital, with 20% owned by external shareholders. Salon has paid a constant dividend since it has been listed, and its share price has risen slightly over the last 3 years. Okay, there are constant dividends. You would say that what are you up to writing down these pointers? I am writing down these pointers because ultimately that is going to give us the advantage of actually being able to compile the answer. So they have been giving the constant dividend, and what else was there? Okay. Owned by 4 directors and 20% owned by public. Selorne is based in a large number of large cities and towns and owns majority of the sites. Sites are owned by Selorne, located in major cities. What else is there? Driver of the lorries, many of the employees have worked for a long time. Employees have long association. And drivers are required to have a special heavy license. Expert drivers. Okay, high salary levels. So these are some of the factors that are there with respect to Selorne company. I've listed down all the relevant points of Selorne company. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to list down all the relevant points of Shareholders company also, because we need to see that how reliable is the estimate of the synergy. Selorne is considering making a bid for Shareholders, an unlisted company specializing in distribution and delivery services. Okay. Shareholders specializes in delivery services. Next it says Shareholders is owned 100% by its founder. Owned by founder. Okay. So I could just write down one point which I have read, which is that Selorne has lost many large contracts in the last 2 years, whereas Shareholders has won many small contracts, and the large contracts are lost only because Shareholders is perceived to be a small company. If its merger with Shareholders, if its merger with Selorne goes ahead, then it will surely become a large company and will be able to win out the contracts which they have not been able to win alone. So I just figured out one of the points and I wrote down things on it. Shareholders is based in many of the same cities and towns where Salon is located, although Shareholders' premises are all rented. Now see, what happens is that the sites are located in the same cities, and I repeat, the sites are located in the same cities and shall be, I repeat, the sites are located in the same cities. For both companies, sites of Selorne are owned, whereas those of Shareholders are rented. The business of both companies can be merged at the same location, with the rented premises being vacated to benefit from the owned premises, resulting in savings in rental cost. Resulting in savings in rental cost. You would see this point that what have I done? As soon as I kept on writing down the question's answer, I kept on actually matching the information from both the companies, and ultimately my answer kept on developing. I kept on matching the information from both the companies and my answer kept on developing. Now what next is there? Next situation is, the drivers do not require a heavy license. They have few long-serving employees. Most drivers, however, stay for a short time. Salary levels are low and they pay gearing, high overtime, and so on, so on, so on. Now see, what happens is that, let's just try to see. Since the removal services also require transportation facility, therefore both companies can benefit from each other's and would lead to synergies arising with respect to transport costs. Gearing of Selorne is below the gearing in its sector, whereas Shareholders is a highly geared company. The combination of both companies would reduce the gearing and hence the overall financial risk attached to the business and the overall financial risk attached to the business. Selorne has paid out constant dividends and their shareholders' expectations would remain the same. This would be welcomed by Chris Shareholders, as he is 100% owner in the current situation and would have enjoyed the perks of withdrawing whatever the amount that he needs. Whereas Chevron is 100% owned by the founder. This would create a cultural difference and may lead to disputes, as Chris Chevron would be more used to running the show on his own. So staff salary, culture, retention, loyalty are going to be the areas of conflicts, and apparently are the only factors which would prevent So apparently the synergies seem to be materialized. It seems that they are going to be materialized. Although the $5 million figure could be question mark, but there seems to be a lot of things common amongst both these entities which are going to give you a good benefit. Lastly, discuss the factors which Selorne's board will consider when determining which source or sources of finance are chosen to finance the possible cash bid for the share capital of Chevron. So what are you going to do now is that factors to be considered. What would happen with respect to right issue is that the existing shareholders will have to invest. If they do not have sufficient reserves, then their shareholding may be diluted, leading to a reduced stake in the business. Further, the right issues has a cost attached to it, like underwriting costs, etc., etc. So that is also another point that needs to be considered. With respect to fixed long-term debt, a fixed rate long-term bank loan will be will be a better option as compared to issuing rights the repayment should be considered. Also, implications for the failure to meet the debt covenants imposed by the bank should also be considered. 3-year unsecured mezzanine debt finance, a subordinated loan, requires greater return as compared to loan from bank, would be relatively cheaper to obtain, relatively quicker to obtain, and even the loan processing fee would be lower as compared to the loan obtained, from the bank. And then with respect to convertible bonds, so potential dilution impact, the dilution impact needs to be considered. Impact on decision making that loan holders may have when they come back as equity providers. So basically, amongst the multiple factors, these are few of the factors that you would have to consider as an entity while deciding which specific method of financing should be obtained. Yeah, is that okay now? So we have even gone through this requirement also, and it's all a discursive thing, and this is something that you need to keep in mind, that when it comes to AFM, if you are gonna be not focusing upon the theoretical aspects, you will be losing out. I'm telling you, if you're not gonna be focusing upon the theoretical aspects, you will lose out. So we are done with this specific question also, which was about mergers and acquisition, the name of which was Selorne company.